searching, fall apart. Tunnel vision, hiding in the dark. Well, I ain't gonna holler before I really bleed. Salvation or quick fix remedy. You said I never could change. I thought I never could change. They said I never could change. Damn right, never would. Leave the light on. Leave the light on. Just leave the light on. Yeah, leave the light on. If I'll ever change, been dreaming of Nashville, Tennessee, while the cold here in Sweden got the best of me. Well, haven't I got better things to think about than that? Like deadlines, rent's due, bills pile up, family day in, day out, the clock's mocking me, getting old, oh, got the kids, deserve so much more than this, gotta get rich. You said I never could change. I thought I never could change. They said I never could change. Damn right, never would. Leave the light on. Leave the light on. Leave the light on. Just leave the light on. If I never change, if I never change, if I never change, if I never change, if I never change.
Finding Light in Darkness, Episode 1. The darkness and the beginning, my story starts here. Before we get into my story, the mess, the grief, the PTSD, the laughter, the hospital proposals, the floods, the mowing at midnight, I just want to say one thing. You made it here. That matters. That's already brave. This podcast isn't a show. It's not some perfectly produced self-help program. It's a lifeline. It's me sitting down with my mate Michael, telling the truth I spent most of my life hiding. And it's for you, the one who's felt like too much or not enough or both at once.
Right. Let's make this clear from the top. We're not doctors, not therapists, not psychologists. We're not here to give you textbook solutions or 10 steps to magical healing. We're just two blokes having real conversations, one of whom has been through hell and lived to talk about it, and the other who's walking beside him, asking the hard questions and holding space for the answers.
I've lived with PTSD, anxiety, depression, addiction, isolation, and grief so deep it's felt like drowning. I've also laughed so hard I nearly passed out in a Bunnings car park. This podcast is where all of that collides, It's not about pretending the pain's not there. It's about finding light while you're still carrying it.
If you're listening to this while curled up on the bathroom floor, if your thoughts are loud and you just needed something, anything, to make you feel less alone, you're in the right place. This is the space where we say the things no one else wants to say, where we sit with the shadows, and where we learn how to survive without pretending we're fine.
Every week we'll talk honestly and no filter about what it means to hurt, to heal, to screw up, to try again, to keep breathing when you don't know why. We'll talk about grief, trauma, mental health, healing, coping, mowing the lawn at night to stop yourself spiraling, cold showers, punching fences, whispering someone's name to the stars, all of it.
And it's not all dark. There'll be laughter. Real, unexpected, tear-streaming laughter. Because sometimes survival is laughing at the mess.
Here's something important. You don't have to relate to everything we say. Take what helps, leave the rest. And if anything makes you feel like, shit, someone finally gets it, then good. That's what we're here for.
One more thing before we start. A resource we both believe in with our whole hearts. It's called This Way Up, an Australian online mental health platform developed by clinical psychologists and psychiatrists at the Clinical Research Unit for Anxiety and Depression, SCRUFAD, a joint facility of St. Vincent's Hospital and the University of New South Wales. These programs were created by brilliant, compassionate experts like Dr. Jill Newby and Professor Gavin Andrews, who've made it their mission to bring accessible, evidence-based mental health support to people everywhere.
I've used This Way Up myself, and let me tell you, it's not some fluffy wellness app. It's science-backed, it's real, it's guided, and it works. If you've ever felt like therapy is too expensive, or you're stuck on a waiting list, or you just want something to start helping now, go check it out. www.thiswayup.org.au. They offer programs for anxiety, PTSD, depression, panic, worry, stress, chronic pain, and more. You can even get a prescription code from your GP to access it fully guided.
We're going to mention This Way Up in every episode because tools like this save lives, just like stories do, just like community does, just like choosing to press play does.
All right, that's the prologue. That's the why. That's the promise. Now we go back, all the way back, to where the darkness began, to the little boy who cried in silence, who wore a smile like armor, who waited in a cradle, forgotten hungry, until someone picked him up and said, "You're not alone anymore."
Let's begin. Episode 1, The Darkness and the Beginning. My story starts here.
You know, people often ask me, when did it start? The anxiety, the darkness, the grief. They think there must have been one big moment, some clear explosion in the timeline. But the truth is, it started slow, quiet, like a fog rolling in before you even knew the sky had changed. I reckon I was about 6 or 7 when I first noticed it. That hollow ache, that feeling like I didn't belong in the same way other kids did. The weird part, I didn't even have the words to describe it back then, just this ache in my chest and a voice in my head saying, something's not right.
That's young, mate. Too young to be carrying that kind of heaviness.
Yeah, and it wasn't just one thing, it was the atmosphere, the arguments, the silence that wasn't peaceful. It was dangerous. Mum left when I was about 6, took my sisters with her, just like that, split the family. And then Dad, he moved to Beaudesert not long after. It was like I didn't matter to either of them. Like I was the piece they forgot to pack when the family broke apart.
That must have been bloody confusing and painful.
Mate, it hurt in ways I didn't even know how to name. I wasn't old enough to process abandonment, but I felt it. You want to know one of my earliest memories? My nan finding me in a cradle, crying, hungry. The house was wide open, no one around. She just picked me up and took me back to the farm. Didn't hear from my parents for nearly a week. And when they finally did call and Nan said, "How do you know we've got him?" My mum replied, "Because no one else would have him."
Bloody hell, Scott.
Yeah, that one stuck, like a shard in the chest that never quite works its way out. From that moment on, I felt like I had to earn love, prove my worth just to exist. My nan and pop were my safe place. I clung to them like oxygen, because with them, I wasn't invisible, I was wanted.
You've said before they saved you in ways you didn't even realize at the time.
They did, no doubt in my mind. They gave me moments of peace, safety, even joy. But when I went back home, it was like stepping into a house made of eggshells and shouting wasn't allowed unless it was the adults doing it.
That kind of environment, it wires your brain for survival, not connection.
Exactly. I became a master at reading the room, scanning faces, watching tone shifts, listening for footsteps that might mean trouble. It's wild to look back and realize how much of my childhood was spent managing other people's emotions.
You became the emotional caretaker when you should have been the one being cared for.
Right. But no one saw that. No one stopped to ask, is Scott okay? I was called moody, overdramatic, too sensitive. I wasn't. I was hurting. And I learned fast that showing that hurt wasn't safe. So I started hiding, smiling on cue, making jokes, becoming the clown, because if they were laughing, they weren't looking too close. That's when the mask went on. And mate, I wore that thing like a second skin for years.
When did it start to crack?
I remember being around 12. One day, nothing huge happened, just a regular crap day. I came home, sat on the edge of my bed, stared at the wall and thought, I don't feel real. Like I'd become a ghost in my own body. No one noticed, no one asked. I'd gotten too good at pretending.
That's the danger with high-functioning pain. People assume you're fine because you look fine.
Exactly. I could be making the whole room laugh while mentally begging the floor to open up and swallow me. That's the thing. I didn't get a gentle childhood. I got survival lessons wrapped in silence.
What kind of survival lessons?
Learned to walk on eggshells. Learned to bottle emotions. Learned that tears make people uncomfortable. That toughen up is how adults say, I don't know how to help you. I learned to blame myself for the fights, for mum leaving, for being the kid no one chose.
That's heartbreaking, mate.
It was. Still is sometimes, but here's the thing. That little boy, he's still inside me, still scared, still scanning the room. Now, though, I sit beside him and I tell him, you're safe now. You didn't cause the storm. You're allowed to feel.
You're reparenting yourself.
Yeah, giving him the comfort he never got. And some days I still whisper, I've got you now, little man. There's a weird kind of grief that comes with realizing you've never truly been seen. Not the version people liked, the funny guy, the you're always smiling bloke, but the real you, the one underneath all the deflections and distractions.
So, when did you first notice the mask had become permanent?
It wasn't one moment, it was thousands. Every time someone said, why are you so quiet? And I forced a joke. Every time someone said, you're so strong, and I nodded while falling apart. Every time I wanted to scream, help me, but instead said, nah, I'm good. It became automatic, reflex, like breathing through a snorkel underwater and pretending it's fresh air.
What were some of your go-to phrases?
Oh, mate, classics. I'm just tired. Now I've been flat out. You know me, always laughing. Meanwhile, I hadn't eaten, hadn't slept, and cried in the work bathroom that morning. I was performing wellness, faking function, acting fine.
And I bet people praised you for it.
Yep, got told I was easygoing, resilient, light-hearted. They didn't see the night I sat in my dark kitchen, lights off, just thinking, is this it? And that question, that quiet, soul-aching question, it wasn't suicidal, not exactly. It was, how much longer can I pretend this is living?
That in-between place, not wanting to die, but not knowing how to live.
Exactly. It's the numb middle ground. You're upright, you're talking, you're even smiling at times, but inside, you're a shattered glass walking barefoot over your own pieces.
That's brutal.
It's reality. And the worst part, people start saying, you're too much, too emotional, too intense, too heavy. I've heard all of it, and it carved shame into my skin like a tattoo I didn't ask for.
What does that kind of shame feel like?
Like you're broken and it's your fault. Like if you just got it together, people might love you. Like if you weren't so, the world would finally exhale.
That's cruel.
It is. But I believed it for years. I thought I had to earn space, prove my right to exist. So I kept shrinking, softening my pain, diluting my truth, until even I didn't recognize the guy in the mirror.
What did you see?
Tired eyes, faked smiles, a man who had learned to disappear in plain sight. I looked at that reflection one night and said out loud, "Who the hell are you?"
That's the moment the mask slips.
Yeah. And you're left staring at the truth. It's confronting, it's painful, but also it's the start. Because once you see the mask, you get to decide if you want to keep wearing it.
And you didn't?
Not anymore. I still reach for it sometimes out of habit, but now I know it's not armor. It's a cage. And I've spent too many years trapped inside it.
So, what's the truth underneath?
That I'm sensitive, emotional, grieving, fiercely loving, deeply wounded. And yeah, maybe I am too much for some people, but I'm done shrinking for them. I'd rather be too much for the wrong crowd than not enough for myself.
That's real power, mate.
Nah, that's survival, evolved. That's what happens when you finally say, "I'm not hiding anymore." People throw the word PTSD around like it's a badge or a buzzword. They hear it and picture combat boots, desert war zones, flashing explosions. And for some people, that's exactly where it comes from. But mine didn't come from the battlefield. Mine came from a living room, a cradle, 100 moments of being forgotten. It came from emotional landmines in childhood, from silence that screamed louder than fists.
That's powerful. And I think a lot of listeners will relate. Trauma that doesn't have a movie script, but hits just as hard.
Right, PTSD isn't just the big bang, it's the slow burn, the consistent lack of safety. It's your body learning early on that the world isn't safe and never fully unlearning it.
So, how does it show up now? What does it feel like?
Mate, sometimes it's like this. You're in Woolies pushing a trolley, you're grabbing Wheat Bix, maybe thinking about dinner, and suddenly, bang, your chest tightens. Your heart's pounding like it's trying to break out of your ribs. Your palms go sweaty, and your brain, it's convinced something terrible is happening right now, but there's no threat, just fluorescent lights, beeping scanners, a guy restocking frozen peas, yet my body's screaming run.
That's the fight or flight kicking in. Over nothing.
Over everything, mate, because trauma teaches your brain to see danger even when it's not there. You're not in the cereal aisle, you're in a memory. A smell, a sound, a thought, anything can drag you back. And your body, it reacts like it's happening again.
What do you do in that moment?
I ground, I speak out loud. I say, red cereal box, blue trolley, man in a flannel shirt. I list the colours, the shapes, the textures. Not because I'm losing it, but because I'm finding myself again.
That's a form of mindfulness, you know.
Yeah? I just thought I was being a weirdo with a coping method, but it works. It drags me back into the present because PTSD lives in the past, but healing lives in the now.
That's deep, mate.
It's real. And here's something I wish more people knew. A panic attack doesn't look the same for everyone. Mine aren't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes I just go silent, freeze, like my whole system hits pause and I'm watching the world through fog glass.
And I imagine people around you don't even notice?
Most of the time, nope. Because I've learned to mask it. I've had full meltdowns in public where I've still managed to smile and nod at a stranger. That's the scary part, where how invisible it can be.
So, what helps beyond grounding?
Having tools, having a plan. I've built this system for myself I call the 3 Ls. Learn, limit, listen.
Break it down for us.
Sure, learn. I educate myself on my triggers. What sets me off? What helps me reset? Limit. I limit the stuff that overwhelms me. Crowds, people who drain me, even too much noise. It's not avoidance, it's boundaries. Listen. I don't fight the anxiety anymore. I listen to it like it's a scared kid in the corner, not to fix it, just to understand.
That's a huge shift from control to compassion.
Exactly. I used to think I could outthink my anxiety, like if I just found the right logic, I'd win. But that's like trying to put out a fire by yelling at it. You can't fix your feelings by arguing with them. You've got to feel them, sit with them, let them move through you. That takes serious strength and it takes surrender. And that, my friend, is the hardest kind of bravery. Grief isn't tidy. It doesn't arrive with a warning or leave on a schedule. It barges in, uninvited, unapologetic, and it doesn't care where you are. It'll gut punch you in the middle of coals, in the shower, during a good day, even in your sleep.
Grief doesn't knock. It just walks straight in.
Too bloody right. And for me, grief started in 2016. That was the year I lost her and the woman I loved. It wasn't just a relationship ending. It wasn't a breakup. It was death, final, brutal, soul deep.
You've talked about her before. The light she brought into your life.
Yeah, she was sunshine on skin. And when she left, everything lost colour. I didn't just lose her, I lost the version of me that only existed when she was around. The safe version, the laughing version, the softer version. It was like someone took a sledgehammer to my centre,
What did those first few months feel like?
like sleepwalking through a war zone. Everything hurt, even things that used to bring joy. Music, sunlight, her favourite perfume. God, that perfume. Sometimes I still smell it and it knocks the air out of me. I'll be walking down the street and suddenly feel her like she's brushing past me in spirit.
That's powerful.
It is. And then 2 years later, just when I thought I was crawling back towards something like stability, boom, 2018, the Queensland floods.
You lost everything, didn't you?
Yeah, my home, my things. But more than that, I lost memories, photos, letters, handwritten notes, things that smelled like her. My house was the last place that held echoes of her voice, and the water took it.
That must have felt like losing her all over again.
It did. I stood in the wreckage, soaked to the bone, holding a warped picture frame, and I broke. There's no other word for it. I just broke. It was like the world was saying, you don't get to keep any of it.
That's cruel.
Yeah. But grief doesn't play fair, and people always say, time heals all wounds. But I want to ask, what clock are you using? Because mine's still broken.
You've said before that grief feels like a haunted house.
Yeah, and you don't ever really leave. You just learn which rooms to visit and which ones to close the door on for now.
So how do you carry that kind of grief?
Some days I carry it like a badge, other days like a backpack full of bricks, and some nights I talk to her, not in a spooky way, just quietly, sitting outside with a coffee, looking up at the stars and whispering, I miss you. I'm sorry for the days I wasn't present. I hope you still see me.
That's love, mate. That's what it still is.
Yeah, and I wouldn't trade the pain because it means I had her. Better to ache from love than to have never known it at all. People always assume that living alone means you're lonely. But for me, for a long time, it meant safety.
Safety from what?
From heartbreak, from loss, from disappointment. If you don't let anyone close, they can't leave. They can't break your heart. They can't die. It sounds harsh, but it became my logic. Keep the walls up and nothing gets in. No love, no hurt, just silence.
But silence can be dangerous too, can it?
Absolutely. See, there are two kinds of silence. There's the kind you choose when you sit with a coffee on the veranda and soak in the stillness. And then there's the kind that creeps in like fog, thick, heavy, and laced with old ghosts. Some nights the quiet felt like comfort. Other nights it felt like punishment.
So you weren't isolating because you hated people. You were protecting yourself.
Yeah, I wasn't avoiding life. I was avoiding pain because the last time I opened the door to love, it ended with a funeral. And the next time I opened it, the water came through, took everything.
That's a hell of a 1-2 punch.
It rewired me, taught me that being alone meant being in control. I didn't have to explain myself, didn't have to fake smiles, didn't have to panic in a room full of laughter, but it came with a cost.
What kind of cost?
Loneliness, bone deep, soul wearing loneliness. And the worst part, it's not the big empty moments that hurt, it's the tiny ones. Hearing a laugh you want to share with someone, but no one's there. Seeing something in a shop window and thinking, she would have loved that. Cooking too much food, sitting across from an empty chair.
That's where the grief echoes, isn't it?
Right there, in the daily things, in the absence you can't explain, and in the noise your own mind makes when there's no one else to fill the silence. And
But you've also said that solitude has its gifts.
it does. It gave me the space to rebuild, to fall apart in private, to scream into the pillow without someone telling me to keep it down. Solitude gave me clarity. It helped me hear my own voice again, the one I'd drowned out for years trying to be what everyone else needed.
So solitude became your sanctuary?
sometimes, but other times it became a trap. There's a fine line between protecting yourself and imprisoning yourself.
That's heavy.
Yeah, but it's real. And if anyone listening is stuck in that loop, thinking being alone is the only safe option, I get it. I've lived it. But here's the truth: it's okay to need people. It's okay to want connection, even if it scares the hell out of you. You're not weak for craving warmth. You're human. You ever hit that point where your brain is screaming, your chest is tight, and your body just needs to do something, anything, or you feel like you're going to come apart? That was me one night. Couldn't sleep. Anxiety had its claws deep in my chest. Couldn't sit still. Couldn't lie down. Couldn't breathe right. So I did what any completely rational, totally stable person would do. I grabbed a bit of cardboard and started scraping the carpet.
You're serious?
Mate, dead serious. Just me, the cardboard, and this relentless need to move. It wasn't about the carpet. It was about surviving the night. And when that wasn't enough, I went outside, fired up the mower.
Wait, what time was this?
About 11:30 p.m. Yeah, fully dark. I'm out there in trackies, mowing the lawn under the moon like some kind of deranged landscaper with unresolved childhood trauma.
You must have looked absolutely cooked.
Oh, I did. And then, as if it couldn't get any weirder, a cop car pulls up.
Oh no.
Yeah, lights on. Officer steps out, hand on his belt. He's looking at me like I'm about to start trimming hedges with a kitchen knife. He says, "Mate, what's going on here?" And I said, "I've got anxiety and it's either mow or scream into the void."
And what did he say?
He looked at me, long pause, then he said, "Mom, my son's the same." And just like that, the energy changed. We stood there under the stars talking about mental health. No judgment, no arrest, just two blokes having a moment of understanding in the middle of suburbia.
That's beautiful, actually.
It was unexpected, but real. And that's the thing about vulnerability. When you let it show, it makes space for connection,
Even from a stranger in uniform.
especially from them. Because in that moment, he wasn't a cop. He was a dad, a human, someone who got it. And that night, that weird, chaotic midnight mowing night, it taught me something. Sometimes survival doesn't look graceful. Sometimes it looks like cardboard and lawnmowers and rambling to the sky. And that's okay.
Because survival's not a performance.
Exactly. It's messy, it's loud, it's awkward, but it's real. And sometimes real is enough. I used to think addiction meant needles, bottles, dark alleys, rehab clinics, the dramatic stuff you see in movies. But I learned something the hard way. Addiction wears a lot of outfits. Sometimes it looks like late night binging. Sometimes it's scrolling for hours until your brain goes numb. Sometimes it's isolation, silence, screens, food, fake smiles, overwork, oversleep, underfeeling.
So, numbing becomes the drug.
Exactly. I wasn't addicted to a substance. I was addicted to escape, to anything that helped me avoid feeling. I didn't want to face the grief, didn't want to confront the rage, didn't want to admit I still missed her or that I was terrified to ever love again. So I disappeared into comfort zones that weren't even comfortable, just familiar.
And that's the trap, isn't it?
Yeah, because when your pain is predictable, it becomes safer than the unknown. Healing means change, change means risk. And when you've lost as much as I have, risk feels like asking for more pain.
So, how do you start walking back from that place?
One honest moment at a time, one breath, one truth, one bloody terrifying admission. I don't want to live like this anymore. I remember standing in front of the mirror, looking at this man I didn't recognize, eyes dull, jaw clenched, mask slipping, and I asked, "Who are you?" And you know what? I didn't have an answer because I'd spent so long performing someone else's idea of strength. I forgot what my version looked like.
That's a massive realization.
It broke me open. And from that point, I stopped trying to fix myself like I was some broken machine. Instead, I started listening to the anxiety, to the grief, to the part of me that just wanted to be held and told, "You're enough, even in this mess."
You've said before that healing isn't about control, it's about surrender.
Yeah, Control is what I clung to when I was terrified, but surrender, that's what gave me peace. It's not giving up, it's giving in to the truth, to the hurt, to the humanity of it all.
So, if someone's listening right now and stuck in that same numbing cycle, what would you say to them?
I'd say this: you're not lazy, you're not broken, you're not weak, you're hurting. And sometimes the brain's way of protecting you is to shut you down. But here's the thing: you're allowed to feel again, you're allowed to come back, you're allowed to rewrite the story. And even if you don't know how yet, just press play, just take one breath, just open the blinds. That's enough. People love saying time heals all wounds. But let me ask you this: what if time doesn't exist?
You're talking about that Einstein quote, right?
Yeah, Albert Einstein once said, the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. Let that sink in. If time's just an illusion, how the hell can it heal anything?
So, what does?
Intentionality, action. Healing isn't passive. It's not waiting for a clock to tick until the pain goes away. It's sticking your hand into the loop and saying, enough. I'm not living like this anymore.
You've described trauma as a loop before, like it keeps playing back over and over.
Exactly. It's not linear. You don't move on from trauma, you move with it. Some days I'm fine. Other days I'm right back in that floodwater or in that hospital room or standing alone in a kitchen asking, is this all life is? The loop doesn't care if you've healed. It just runs unless you interrupt it. And
And how do you do that?
you bring awareness to the moment. You say, okay, I'm triggered. I feel scared. I don't know why I'm panicking right now, but I'm not in danger. That moment of noticing, that's the hand in the loop. That's the circuit breaker.
It sounds simple, but it's not easy.
Nah, it's bloody hard because the instinct is to run, to numb, to distract, to scroll, to eat, to lash out. But if you can pause just for a second and name what's happening, you start building new pathways. You start rewiring the story.
So, healing becomes less about waiting and more about choosing.
Exactly. It's not time heals. It's time gives you chances to heal. And even if you miss one, there'll be another sunrise, another breath, another laugh, another conversation. That's the beauty of being alive. You get another go.
That's such a shift in perspective, mate.
It saved me because for years I thought I was failing at recovery. I thought, why aren't I better yet? Why am I still hurting? Why hasn't time fixed this? But now I know it's not about being better. It's about being present. It's about showing up. And that's the work. That's the loop breaker. There's this old poem a lot of people know, Footprints in the Sand. You've heard it, right?
Yeah, where someone looks back over their life and sees only one set of footprints during the hardest times. They ask, God, why did you abandon me? And God says, that's when I carried you.
Exactly. Well, I had my own version. I rewrote it years ago. It was spiritual, not preachy, but deep. It got destroyed in the floods along with everything else, but I still remember the words.
Go on, mate.
It went like this. I walk along the beach with the Lord, and I looked at the Lord, looked at the ground, at the beach. I said to the Lord, why is there only one set of footprints? The Lord come back and said to me, I'm not the one looking forward. You've already been back there. There's only one way to go, and that's forward.
That just gave me goosebumps.
It gave me clarity because for so long I was trying to go backward, trying to undo the trauma, revisit the grief, rewrite the endings I never got. But healing doesn't live in the past. It lives in the next breath, the next step, even if that step feels like a crawl.
And it's not about religion, right? It's about something bigger.
Yeah, I'm not traditionally religious, but I do believe in something bigger. Call it the universe, call it spirit, call it love that doesn't end when the body does. Sometimes I sit outside with a coffee, stars overhead, breeze on my face, and I talk to her. I say things like, I miss you. I hope you're proud. Do you still see me when I laugh? And sometimes I feel her in the wind, in the way the clouds shift, in the timing of a song on the radio, in the soft perfume that shows up on a street with no one around.
That's presence. That's connection.
It is. And one of the memories that still holds me, like anchors my soul, is this one day in Townsville. We went on a picnic, just us, blanket on the grass, clouds overhead, the kind that make you think it might rain, but you don't care. We laughed, shared snacks, talked about nothing and everything. And then the clouds parted, the sun broke through like a curtain pulling open and just bathed us in golden light. We both stopped talking, and she looked at me like I was the only man on the planet.
That's, wow, that's cinematic.
Yeah, but it was real, no filter, no script, just a moment so pure that even grief can't steal it from me. That's what I hold on to. When the dark days come, when the noise in my head won't shut up, when I start doubting if there's anything left to fight for,
That's what the light looks like, isn't it?
it is. Not some big neon sign that says you're healed, but these small golden memories, the ones that still glow even through the pain. And I want people listening to know those moments matter. You don't have to be okay to be grateful. You don't have to be over the loss to hold on to love.
You once said grief carves new rooms in the heart.
Yeah, rooms you didn't ask for, but that become part of your home. And the thing about those rooms, sometimes they echo, but sometimes they sing. And I'll take that, even if it means tears, even if it means missing her every damn day, because the alternative is forgetting, and I'll never let that happen. You want to know the heaviest thing I've ever carried? Not grief, not anxiety, not even the PTSD. It was shame.
Not many people talk about that one. They talk about fear, sadness, but shame?
Because shame's invisible. It's the quiet killer. You could be laughing in a room full of people, and inside shame's whispering, if they knew the real you, they'd walk away. It tells you you're not just hurting, you're the problem. It turns pain into identity, and for years I believed it.
What did shame sound like in your head?
Like this: you should be over it by now. You're too emotional. People get tired of that. You ruin things. You're a burden. You're weak. You're broken. And it's your fault. It wasn't just self-criticism, it was self-erasure. I looked in the mirror and didn't see a man anymore, just a failure.
That's heartbreaking, mate.
It is, but it's also common. And here's what makes shame so dangerous: it isolates you, it convinces you that you don't deserve help. So you stop reaching out, you stop speaking, you sit in silence and call it strength.
But you weren't silent forever.
Nah. Eventually I cracked, and it wasn't some brave, dramatic, I choose healing moment. It was messy, it was ugly crying, it was staring into the bathroom mirror at 3 a.m. whispering, please, I don't want to feel like this anymore. That night I wrote a letter I never sent to the people who walked away, the ones who judged, the ones who ghosted. It said, you don't know what it's like to fear your own mind, to cry so hard you vomit, to lie in the bath and hope it swallows you whole, but I forgive you because I wouldn't wish this understanding on anyone.
That's raw. That's honesty most people never reach.
I had to write it because bottling it up was killing me. But you know the real kicker? Forgiving them was easier than forgiving me.
What did you need to forgive yourself for?
Everything I thought I'd failed at, not saving her, not being strong enough, not healing faster, letting the depression win some days, the relationships I ruined, the conversations I avoided, all of it. I held myself to an impossible standard, and when I fell short, I punished myself for it, not with actions, with silence, with withdrawal, with self-hate.
And what changed?
One day I imagined talking to younger me, that kid who was crying in the cradle, waiting for someone to notice, and I pictured holding his face in my hands and saying, you did your best, that's enough, I'm proud of you. And I broke, not from sadness, but from relief, because for the first time in my life, I felt what grace feels like, not earned, not begged for, just given.
That's powerful. That's the shift.
It is. We think forgiveness is about letting someone off the hook. But real forgiveness, especially toward ourselves, is saying, I won't carry this weight any longer. I deserve peace, even if I've made mistakes.
So, for anyone listening who's still blaming themselves,
I'd say this: look at everything you've survived, every time you wanted to give up but didn't, every morning you woke up with lead in your chest and still got out of bed, Every night you cried and still brushed your teeth, made a meal, returned a text. That's not weakness. That's warrior energy. You're not your lowest moment. You're not your trauma. You're not the voice that tells you you're worthless. You're a survivor, and that deserves grace, even if, especially if, you don't believe it yet. When I look back, it wasn't just what happened to me that shaped who I became, it was what people said. Words carry weight. And when you're a kid, especially a hurting kid, those words become scripture.
What kind of things stuck with you?
I heard, "You're too much. Stop being so emotional. You're always bringing the mood down." And the classic, "Toughen up." And when you're little, you don't question it. You believe it. You think, okay, I guess love means being quieter, smiling more, not crying. So I started shrinking, not physically, but emotionally. I shrank my voice. I shrank my needs. I shrank my truth.
That's survival, mate.
Yeah, but it didn't feel like it. It felt like I was failing to be who I was supposed to be. Like there was something wrong with the way I felt. And then every now and then, someone would say something that landed different, a message that cracked through the shame,
Like what?
like, "You're still here, that's enough," or "You don't have to be okay for me to care." And once, just once, someone said, "I'm not going anywhere." That line, "I'm not going anywhere," that was a lifeline, because the little boy inside me, he always believed people would.
Because they did.
Yeah, parents, friends, family, people I trusted, they'd drift, disappear, ghost. And each time it confirmed what that little voice in me already whispered. "See, you're forgettable. You're unlovable."
But that wasn't true.
No, but it felt true. And when a kid feels unloved long enough, he starts to believe he deserves it. So years later, when I lost her, the woman who did stay, it reopened all of that. It wasn't just grief for her, it was grief for the little boy who finally felt safe and then lost it again.
You weren't just grieving your partner, you were grieving your foundation.
Exactly. She saw the real me, and when she died, it felt like the last person who saw the little boy was gone. But here's the part I want to say loud. Her love didn't die. It changed shape. It became memory, story, purpose. It became this.
This podcast,
Yeah, every time someone messages me and says, "I feel seen," you put words to what I couldn't explain. I cried with you. I feel like I'm talking to him, the little version of me, still curled up in the dark, waiting for someone to say, "You matter."
and you're finally saying it to him.
Every single episode, every single word is for him. And for anyone listening who still feels like that little kid inside is hiding behind the couch, afraid to be too loud, too sad, too emotional, too anything, you're not too much. You're just a person with a big heart who never got to grow safely. And now we grow anyway. If I could speak to that little boy now, the one sitting alone in the cradle, hungry, forgotten, listening to an open house and the sound of his own heartbeat, I wouldn't give him advice. I wouldn't tell him to toughen up or to hold on. I'd kneel down beside him, look him in the eyes and whisper, "You deserved better. You weren't too much. You were just small and scared and waiting for someone to choose you." I'd wrap him in the hug he never got, let him cry without being told to stop, and I'd tell him something no one else ever did. "You're not hard to love."
That's a healing moment right there.
It is. And it's not just for me. It's for every listener who still feels like a version of that boy or girl, for anyone who's been called dramatic, sensitive, attention seeking, for anyone who learned to hide instead of speak. This podcast, this story, isn't a guidebook. It's not step-by-step recovery. It's a campfire, a place to sit with your shadows, to warm your hands on someone else's truth, to be reminded you are not alone in the dark.
And even if they don't know how to heal yet, that's okay.
More than okay, because sometimes healing doesn't start with answers. It starts with staying alive, staying open, staying curious about the possibility of light. And that's why I always come back to this one simple word: stay. Stay even when it hurts. Stay even when silence screams. Stay even when your hands are shaking and you don't know why. because somewhere inside you, beneath the trauma, beneath the fear, beneath the conditioning, is you. The you that laughed once, the you that loved deeply, the you that still breathes.
So what do you say to the person listening right now? The one barely holding on?
I'd say this: you don't need to be healed to be worthy. You don't need to be fixed to be loved. You don't need to have it all figured out to matter. You just need to stay one more minute, one more breath, one more sunrise, because the why, it will come. And until it does, let mine hold you for a while. Thank you for making it to the end of this first episode. It's heavy, it's honest, and it's just the beginning. Next episode, we go deeper into the roots, the early years, the foster care, the first cracks in the foundation that no one saw. But for now, take a breath, make a cup of tea, step outside, cry if you need, laugh if you can. And remember, your story doesn't have to be clean to be real. You're not broken, you're rebuilding, just like me.
And as always, if you're struggling, please reach out. There is no shame in asking for help.
Here are some places you can turn. Lifeline Australia 13 11 14. Beyond Blue 1300224636. Suicide Callback Service 1300659467. Men's Line Australia 1300789978. 13YARN First Nations Crisis Line 139276. This Way Up www.thiswayup.org.au. Developed by Dr. Jill Newby and Professor Gavin Andrews through CrewFAD, a collaboration between St Vincent's Hospital and the University of New South Wales. And of course, you can always reach out to Scott directly. Email chat@scottfindthelight@gmail.com. And remember, reaching out for help isn't giving up, it's fighting back. We'll see you next time in the dark, in the light, wherever you are. We'll be right there with you.
Soul searching, fall apart, tunnel vision, hiding in the dark. Well, I ain't gonna holler before I really bleed. Salvation or quick fix remedy. You said I never could change. I thought I never could change. They said I never could change. Damn right, never would. Leave the light on. Leave the light on. Just leave the light on. Yeah, leave the light on. If I'll ever change, of Nashville, Tennessee, while the cold here in Sweden got the best of me. Well, haven't I got better things to think about than that? Like deadlines, rent's due, bills pile up, family day in, day out, the clock's mocking me, getting old, oh God, the kids deserve so much more than this, gotta get rich. You said I never could change. I thought I never could change. They said I never could change. Damn right, never would.